Hey guys, Will here, you're watching Boosted Autos, and in today's episode we are going to be doing a rear bumper cut on my MX5. So you can see I've got my Dremel and cutting wheel in my hand here. A couple of other tools that we use as well is a circular and flat edge file, a screwdriver to remove some clips, a pair of scissors, and a couple of little bits and pieces that you'll see in the video. So why do we actually want to do this? So there's a couple of reasons. The main reason is purely aesthetics. It looks cool. Debatable, but I think it looks cool. It's also great if you want to change the exhaust configuration on your car. So from factory, you've got one exhaust outlet on this side, which has a little cutout. If you change that, then if you want to have an exhaust on both sides, it ends up looking uneven, or if you want to put an exhaust in the middle, you can't because it sits too high. So by cutting this piece out, we lose the little divot here, and it all looks a lot more symmetrical and even. So that's the reason we're doing it. There is also an aerodynamic advantage as well. You don't get the sort of parachute effect of the air turbulence inside the back, but for a street car that really doesn't make any difference at all. And you know, unless you're pushing for hundreds of seconds around the track, you're not really going to notice a difference either. Now there is a couple of different approaches to doing this. Some people like to cut the bumper really high up. Some people like a more subtle look. I've kind of gone for the middle ground, but what you need to be aware of is that there is a crash beam that sits in behind here, and in my case it's about there, and I'll show you what that looks like now. But obviously if you cut too high up, even if you've got a really nice looking exhaust, you're going to see that crash beam there, and it's going to look kind of ugly. So we want to make sure that we're not cutting too high unless you don't mind that bar being visible. Some people like to spray paint it or sticker bomb it or whatever, but just be aware that that is there. So don't just go marking it up high and cutting it and then being surprised by what it looks like when you're finished. But look, other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You've got these little plastic clips that sit in behind there as well, and all you really need to do is just cut those off with a pair of scissors. I started off using my Dremel to do it, and then I realized it's such soft plastic you can just snip them straight off. So you don't need to remove the bumper or anything like that. It's a really simple, easy task to do, as long as you take your time and you're patient and you don't try to rush things. So what we're going to do now is travel back in time. I'll show you how I prepped everything up. I came up with a really cool method to create a symmetrical template that makes it really easy to get a nice, even, symmetrical result. So hopefully you guys find this video really interesting. So it's a little bit awkward, but I can see here, if I look at the line here, it's still sitting lower than the crash bar behind here, which means I've got plenty of room to keep going. So I'm happy with that height. That's the height we're going to take it. So now we just need to continue this line along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my vernier calipers here. I'm just going to measure the distance from the inside of the lip here to my line. So if we take it from there, which is the easiest point, it's 89 millimeters. It's a shame it's not 90, but that will do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tape that closed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it all the way along the bumper, and I'm just going to take a Sharpie and draw dots as I go along to give me my line, and then I'll follow that line or follow those dots along with a piece of masking tape, and that'll give me a nice straight line all the way across. So let's get going. We'll take the lid off. Alright, so now we've got a row of dots. Now I think the bumper does actually go in a little bit at the bottom here, because it looks like the line dips a little bit. Alright, so you can see here it is dipping down and then going back up again. I'm not real happy with that. I'm going to measure, and that's exactly right. In line with the tow hook on this side, exactly the same thing. That's that point there, so that's exactly spot on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight across, and we'll see how that looks. So now we just need to replicate this curve on the other side. Alright, so what I'm going to attempt to do here is I've got a bit of a line here where the tape is. I've got some backing paper from my wrap, but you can use just regular paper. And what I'm going to do is going to line it up with the line here, and I'm just going to trace over it. And what I'm hoping is that when we get over to this edge here, we'll actually see a bit of an imprint on the line where the tape starts. And then what I'll be able to do is I'll trace it, follow the curve, and then I'll be able to cut that shape out. And then when we flip it over on the other side, we'll have the exact same shape which we can replicate on the other side. So that's what we're going to try to do anyway. So I'm going to start off by taping this in place. Alright, so now I'm just going to trace it, and hopefully we'll get a nice curve that we can chop out, and then we'll have the exact same shape to replicate on the other side. So as you can see, I'm getting a line there, which is giving me the exact curve which I need to replicate on the other side. So it looks like it's working perfectly. Alright, so we'll chop that out and see if it actually matches what we have. So, perfect. So what we need to do now is measure exactly how far this is in from the edge so we can replicate it on the other side. So the best way to do that is going to be to find a reference point. So the brake light's exactly 15 centimeters wide, so 7.5 centimeters is the middle. So I'll put our tape there, and again we're just going to draw a line down the middle of the car. So this side here is our center line, so we'll mark it with a Sharpie again. So we know that's the exact center of our bumper bar. So what that means is that the distance between that point and that point and there should be exactly the same. So we'll measure it. So 35 and 35. So that's really, really close now. So what we can do, slip our template out and tape up the template. So alright, so now we just want to follow this same curve with our masking tape. And what we'll do is tape over the top there to lock it in place. And then we can peel this part back, remove this piece, and continue. Looks pretty perfect to me, but I'll measure it all up and just check before we start cutting. Alright, so we ran out of sunlight yesterday. I didn't want to do all the measurements and cutting in the evening light because I didn't want to make any mistakes. So it's the middle of the day now. We're going to go over everything and just measure. So first thing I want to do is check that this center line is dead straight. So we'll line up the spirit level with the line, and we can see there that our bubble is right in the middle. So we know that's straight. Check there as well. Yep, straight and straight. So in case you're wondering if that looks a little bit off center, the tape's left hand side edge is my dead center line. So what I did was I measured the width of the brake light and then split it in half to give me my dead center line. So the tape's not in the middle, because if the tape was in the middle, I'd have a 2 centimeter window of opportunity there for the middle, whereas with the hard edge, I know that that's the exact center line. So the next thing we want to do is we want to measure the distance from the center to where the curve starts to bevel around on each side. So start there, and we can see it's starting at 48.5 centimeters on this side. So we'll measure exactly the same on the other side as well. 48.5 centimeters. And we can see that's where it's starting to bend around. So that's exactly the same on both sides. I've got my calipers again, and I'm going to measure from the tow hook on the underside here to the tape. And we've got 89 millimeters, which is what we measured yesterday. I want to check exactly the same measurement on this side as well. So line it up with the tow hook, and it is exactly the same. Last one that we want to check is with a tape measure. We're going to just check a few reference points along to make sure that we've got the same measurement downwards. So first thing I'm going to do is put my tape measure in here, take a reference point as one of the vertical lines on the brake light, and run it down, making sure that we push it flat against the bumper bar so we get an equal measurement on both sides. So pushing that down flat there, and we can see we've got 26.5 centimeters to the line. Do exactly the same thing on the other side as well. So taking the same reference point, pushing it flat, exactly 26.5 centimeters. So we know that it's exactly the same on both sides there. What I'll also do is I'll do a measurement at the center line here. So 30 centimeters exactly. And because we've got a few reference points here, we can measure on either side of the number plate as well. So we'll line it up again. 30 centimeters. And one last one on this side as one more reference point. 30 centimeters exactly. So we can see from here to here to here to here to here is exactly 30 centimeters. And our reference from the bottom of the bumper as well is exactly the same on both sides. So I'm confident we're ready to start cutting. moment of truth, we'll wiggle it off. There we go. So we've got a little bit of tidying up to do along this bottom edge. There's a fair bit of burnt plastic there, but all in all it's come up pretty good. So I'll probably run along the edge with something like a potato peeler, but we also need to tidy up these brackets obviously as well that are left behind. So we'll slice those off. It was a little bit tricky to get in there with the Dremel while the bumper was still on there, so we'll tidy all that up and job will be done. So what I ended up doing was just cutting them out with a pair of scissors, because the plastic's so soft it just cuts straight through. There was no point in wasting a cutting wheel from a Dremel, and you don't need any of that clip there. The whole thing's redundant, so I just cut it off at the back. So now all we need to do is just tidy up around here and the job will be complete. Right, so I've got my potato peeler. What do you know, it's actually working. So the trick is to not get it snagged. Just go really gently, because it will bite off quite a bit if you let it. I think what I'll do now is I'll just go around it with a file, get rid of the sharp edge, and we'll be done. So that's it guys, I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Don't forget our 10,000 subscriber giveaway. We're up to 12,000 subscribers now, we're just about to crack it, so 1,000 more subscribers to go until we draw that competition. So if you found the video interesting and useful, please do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. It really helps me out and also helps you to not miss the next video in the series. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna go jump in the pool. Bye.